Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. I hope you all are well. It is Sunday. I apologise for the lack of content throughout last week. I decided to have a little bit of not a week off, but just a week of just chilling, relaxing and basically getting over everything that was last season. Obviously the season ended this time last week with a defeat to Arsenal, and after we done the game review, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have a couple of days where I sit down and I just don't think about football whatsoever, because although the season was over, I think this season has been one that certainly has affected many of us in different ways, and it was nice to have a couple of days where I just didn't have to think about football whatsoever, and I just didn't have to think about, the stresses and the anxiety of what we've just been through in the last 6 to 8 months. But we are back. The content will be flowing as of next week, of course. We've still got the seasonal player ratings to do, which we will be doing early next week, as well as the season review. And we're going to do more of these types of videos, which are just general sort of news updates. We are going to bring back the Talking Rubbish Transfer Show. If you are new to the channel and you are unfamiliar with what the Talking Rubbish Transfer Show is, it's basically a show that we did pretty much every day throughout the summer transfer window last summer, where we spoke about transfer rumours, players that are being linked with moves to Everton and players that are being linked with moves away from Everton, and we basically just had a little look at, where these rumours were coming from, whether or not we believed them or not, and we basically ranked them as, from complete and utter nonsense to, likability and likely to happen. And I've said before on this channel, and I'll say it again, that I'm not really one for looking at different sources and determining which sources are reliable and which sources aren't reliable. The Talking Rubbish Transfer Show is more me looking at the rumour in itself and the player in itself, and basically giving my opinion on whether or not I think it would be a good move for Everton, be it players leaving Everton or be it players coming into Everton. So the transfer talk videos will likely be Talking Rubbish Transfer Shows over the next few weeks or so, next few months or so, whilst the transfer window is open. As it is off-season, as the season has ended, as it does every single year, the transfer rumours have started, and they've started quite rapidly, haven't they? We are well and truly into silly season now. Silly season being the period in football season where there's no football being played because the seasons are done with. Obviously, the Champions League final was played last night. I want to give a huge congratulations to former Everton manager Carlo Ancelotti and Real Madrid on their 14th Champions League. They really are the mentality monsters, aren't they? They, got through and managed to beat Chelsea, PSG, Manchester City in absolutely unbelievable circumstances, and they made a really good Liverpool team look bang average yesterday. So massive congratulations to Carlo Ancelotti and Real Madrid. That's now his 4th Champions League as a manager, and he's won every one of Europe's top 5 leagues, obviously winning La Liga this season with Real Madrid as well. And no, he left Everton in not the great circumstances and left us in a bit of a situation, to say the least, last summer. But I think there is a strong argument to be had that Carlo Ancelotti is the best football manager of all time. And I think anybody that wants to dismiss that argument has not got a fucking clue about football whatsoever. So congratulations to Carlo Ancelotti and Real Madrid. The playoff final is today between Nottingham Forest and Huddersfield. In fact, I think it's just kicked off. So, after this game, the season is pretty much over. Football is pretty much over. And as I said, this leads us into the period of a footballing calendar where players are just linked with moves anywhere and everywhere, because obviously journalists and publications have not got much else to talk about, so they take any little bit of information, any little bit of news that might have surfaced, and they formulate it into a rumour and they put it out there for people like me to sit here and talk about. And that's why it's difficult sometimes to sift through the rumours that have actually got any sort of substance and the rumours that are complete and utter nonsense. Everton have been linked with Conor Gallagher, Maxwell Corney, James Tarkovsky, just to name a few Premier League players that Everton have been linked with over the last week or so. And we're going to go through some of those rumours today. There's also been a couple of Everton players linked with moves away, which I think is interesting to go through as well. But we're just going to generalise it, have a little bit of a general roundup today. We're going to talk about Jordan Pickford as well. Jordan Pickford did win Premier League save of the season. That was announced yesterday for his save from Cesar Azpilicueta's shot in the game against Chelsea at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago. And let's be honest, as soon as that save was made, I think we all sort of said if that doesn't win save of the season, then it's complete and utter nonsense. It's complete and utter nonsense if that save wasn't going to win save of the season. And you know, as deserved, it absolutely did win save of the season. And as I said, you know, yesterday when it was announced, it was never in doubt really. It was one of the best saves I've ever seen in a footballing game, not just this season, but in my 23, 24 years of watching football. It's one of the best saves I've ever witnessed. And Jordan Pickford has had a fantastic season. He also won Everton's Player of the Season in those awards that were announced midway through last week. Anthony Gordon won Players Player and Young Player, and Vitaly Mykolenko won Goal of the Season for this strike against Leicester. Vitaly Mykolenko's birthday today, he's 23 years old as well, so a massive happy birthday to Vitaly Mykolenko. But great to see Jordan recognised, I think is the right word. Listen, Jordan Pickford winning Everton's Player of the Year was always going to be a formality. There was probably only 2 or 3 players that were in contention for that award anyway, but Jordan, you know, thoroughly deserved it, and as I said, I think had Jordan not have won Player of the Season, it would have been a little bit of a disaster really, because he absolutely was our Player of the Season in those last 2-3 months of the season. He made unbelievable saves that ultimately have kept us in the Premier League. The one against Cesar Azpilicueta, which we've just mentioned, that one save of the season, was the best save I've ever witnessed as a football fan. Some people may disagree. Some people will have lived a lot longer than I have, but that is the best save I've ever witnessed watching football, be it from an Everton goalkeeper or a goalkeeper of any other team. It was absolutely unbelievable. Not to mention, you know, the other saves he made in that game, a couple of the saves that he made against Crystal Palace as well. He made a number of saves, you know, over the last couple of weeks or so, which have really solidified Everton's position and ultimately won us games of football. You know, I think there was about 4 or 5 instant match reactions in which I sat here and said Jordan Pickford has won us that game today with his unbelievable goalkeeping. So it's great to see him recognised by the Premier League for that, and deservedly as well. As I said, I think had the Premier League not have given that save as save of the season, I think this should have been a massive inquest as to why, because it was as clear as day. I've seen a couple of Arsenal fans in the comments, what about Ramsdale? What about Ramsdale? Aaron Ramsdale is a good goalkeeper who makes bang average saves look absolutely world class. Aaron Ramsdale will never dream of making a save like that in his life. He is incapable of making a save like that. That save was outstanding, and as I said, it absolutely deserved to win save of the season, and it's fantastic that Jordan has got that recognition, along with obviously the recognition of winning Everton's Player of the Year. I think the Young Player of the Year was always a formality. It was always going to be Anthony Gordon, wasn't it, really? There wasn't many other contenders for that. You know, I suppose you'd maybe look at, I don't know, Ben Godfrey might he have been in there because of his age. Vitaly Mykolenko being, you know, coming in January, maybe he'd have been in there as well. But again, I think Anthony Gordon was always going to win Young Player of the Year. Again, one of the shining lights of our season. Interesting that he won Players Player as well. Not often does a player win both, you know, players, a Young Player and Players Player. So it was interesting to sort of see the dynamic of how his teammates and people around the football club feel about Anthony Gordon. It's very clear that is his desire and his heart and his hunger and his energy and his passion, you know, shines through on everybody else, and it's clear that his teammates appreciate that and understand the importance of that as well. And then Vitaly Mykolenko winning Goal of the Season. Goal of the Season was one that was certainly up for contention. I thought Andos Townsend's against Burnley was impeccable. I thought Damari Gray's against Arsenal was unbelievable. I thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin's against Crystal Palace was well in for the shout because of the importance that it had on him, and because obviously of the difficulties of Dominic Calvert-Lewin's season and how much he'd been through, and to come back and score such an important goal obviously meant, you know, that will have been in the running. But Vitaly Mykolenko's for everything that he's been through as well, not only as a player but as a person over the last few months or so, I think he thoroughly deserved to win that Goal of the Season, and not only because of everything that he's gone through, and not only because of, you know, it's been a difficult period for him as a player and as a person, but the goal in itself is absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? It's not like we're sitting here saying, oh, he's only won it because of you know, other situations he's won it because the technique was absolutely phenomenal, and the goal in itself was massively important in a massively important game. So yeah, congratulations to Jordan Pickford, Anthony Gordon and Vitaly Mykolenko, of course, for earning those honours. And yeah, I suppose everything else going on at the moment is purely transfer rumour, isn't it? It's a difficult period, this, because you really are waking up every morning to a different rumour. You're waking up every morning to a different player being linked with Everton. I think Everton were linked with something like 120 odd players last summer, and we signed three of them, and it became quite evident quite quickly that most of them we were being linked with we were never going to be able to afford because of our financial situation. Everton have already been linked with 15 players over the last week or so, a number of them being Premier League players, and a number of them being deals that will never be made, and players that Everton will never sign. But Everton watch a player, or Everton have an interest in a player, or somebody at Everton, be it Kevin Thelwell or Frank Lampard or somebody else at Everton, says, oh, I like the look of them, they're a good player, and all of a sudden that's formulated and created into a rumour, which is then put out there for us to sit here and talk about. So one thing I will say about the transfer rumours that we'll all be reading, and a lot of the videos we'll be doing over the next coming weeks will be about transfer rumours and about these players, is that take everything you read with a massive pinch of salt, unless it's coming from The Athletic or Fabrizio Romano or anybody with any real sort of substance where you look and you think, I can believe what they say. Take everything else with a pinch of salt, and take all of the rumours of Everton are interested, or Everton like the look of, or Everton are impressed by, all of these rumours that use those words and then insert impressive Championship player or insert impressive Premier League player, i.e. Brennan Johnson, Conor Gallagher, Maxwell Corney on the end of, we should absolutely take with a pinch of salt. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about them, because these are players that could end up signing for Everton Football Club this summer, and a number of them we've been linked with, if they do end up signing for Everton Football Club this summer, would be unbelievable signings. But let's get into somebody who may leave Everton this summer, and somebody that, if they do leave Everton this summer, will break the hearts of, I think, pretty much every Evertonian, myself included. If this lad is to leave the football club this summer, I can't say I will begrudge him, or I can't say I will say he doesn't deserve it, but it will absolutely floor me for a number of weeks. I already know. And this is Richarlison. Now, the latest on the Richarlison situation, as I said, taking everything with a pinch of salt, has come from Damasio, who is an Italian journalist, actually somebody that is followed quite widely. He reports for Sky Sports. Again, I'm not going to sit here and do the reliable check where I sit and say, oh, this person's more reliable than that person, or this person's reliable, that person isn't. But Damasio, in the past, has got some things right, and in the past has got some things heavily wrong as well, so make of that what you will. But Damasio last night said that Real Madrid are not interested in signing Richarlison this summer. Now, this also comes from, I believe, Florentino Perez talking about the failure of Real Madrid failing to sign Kylian Mbappe, and the lack of need for a player in a similar role as Kylian Mbappe, which I think is interesting. I'm just going to try and get the tweet up now. So Madrid Exeter, with a massive Real Madrid page on Twitter, who of course will have been absolutely made up yesterday, they were reporting that Florentino Perez wasn't interested in going for a player of a similar ilk to Kylian Mbappe, and therefore Richarlison and I can't remember who else was involved in that, won't be targeted, which is interesting really, because that doesn't make an awful lot of sense, does it? If Real Madrid were wanting somebody of Kylian Mbappe's ilk, and I'm not comparing Richarlison to Kylian Mbappe, basically what I'm saying is a forward who can play across the front three, goal scorer, somebody of that ilk. If they were after somebody like that, then Richarlison was on that target list, then why would they all of a sudden now not want a player of that sort of position? Now that they can't get Kylian Mbappe, it doesn't make much sense. I also wouldn't trust Florentino Perez as far as I could throw him. So for anybody saying, oh, it's sound now, Florentino Perez has said that, you know, they don't want Richarlison, so yeah, we move on now. I wouldn't believe a word. If Florentino Perez woke up next to me tomorrow morning, firstly, I'd say, fucking hell, what are you doing in my bed next to me, Florentino Perez? And then secondly, if he said it's Monday, I'd have to check my phone about 400 times to make sure it was Monday, because I wouldn't believe him. But as I said, DiMarzio are reporting that Real Madrid are not interested in bringing Richarlison in this summer, which is interesting because The Athletic only a week or so ago, actually during the season, it was before the Crystal Palace game, which I thought was ill-timed, but you know, I suppose that's the media for you in this country. They were reporting that Real Madrid were interested in bringing Richarlison in after failing to bring Kylian Mbappe in, and Carlo Ancelotti was wanting to bring the Brazilian to Madrid. Now, that was a rumour that when I read, I sort of had my head in my hands a little bit with it, to be honest with you, because I believed it. Not only because it was coming from The Athletic, who are, as I said, you know, again, not going to do the reliable check, but one of the reliable sources that you would look at and read information from and take information from with, with a bit more sincerity than a lot of other pages. But also because of Richarlison's relationship with Carlo Ancelotti when he was at Everton Football Club. Carlo Ancelotti always spoke heavily of Richarlison, mentioned, you know, things like winning the Ballon d'Or, and if he keeps on going, he'll be up there with some of the best in the world. Richarlison has also spoke openly about his relationship with Carlo Ancelotti and his respect and admiration for him as a manager, also adding to the fact that it's Real Madrid and they are the best team in Europe, as proven yesterday, although Michael Owen will tell you different because he hasn't got a fucking clue about football. And, you know, they're one of the best teams in the world. Let's be honest, Real Madrid are the team, aren't they, at the moment? Not only because they won yesterday, but look at what they've come through this season to win a league title, to win a Champions League. They've been absolutely phenomenal, and it would be beyond, to say really difficult would be an understatement. It would be painfully difficult for Everton, be it anybody at Everton, be it an Evertonian, me or anybody watching, or be it Kevin Thelwell, Frank Lampard, Farhad Moshiri, Bill Kenwright, whoever. It would be nigh on impossible for anybody at this football club to convince Richarlison to stay here if Real Madrid were genuinely interested and wanted to bring him in. Not only because of the Carlo Ancelotti connection, but also because it's Real Madrid. You're playing in the Champions League. He'd be playing with Vinicius Junior, who's got a relationship with because of the Brazilian connection. It would be impossible. Let's be honest, it would. And I've said a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, and this might come back to bite me on the arse. And you know what? If it does, then it does. There's not much I can do about it. If it does, then it does. But I've said a couple of times in the last couple of weeks to friends, and I think I've said it on the channel as well, I don't think Richarlison will leave Everton this summer unless it is for a club of the size similar to a Real Madrid. A Real Madrid, a PSG. Obviously PSG, I think, were more of a worry when there was the news about Kylian Mbappe potentially going. A Barcelona, a Bayern Munich, somebody like that. I don't think, and I could be wrong here, and it would break my heart if I'm wrong, but I don't think Richarlison would leave Everton to go to somewhere in the Premier League. I can't see him leaving Everton to go to Manchester United or Tottenham, although those teams might be interested in him. I just can't see him doing that. Now, I know that, Manchester United, Tottenham are in a much better position than Everton. Tottenham will be playing Champions League football next season. Manchester United will be playing in the Europa League. And I understand that you'd say, well, why would he not go if he's got the chance to play in Europe? But I don't know, maybe it's just blind naivety. Maybe it's me just being blind loyal to Everton and expecting Richarlison to be the same. But I just think he's got a loyalty to this football club. He spoke openly about being at home in this football club. He spoke openly about not really being in a rush to leave the club, or not really, feeling like he needs to leave. I just think he's in a position where, okay, if one of the top teams in the world come in for him, a Real Madrid, a PSG, etc., maybe even Barca, again, I don't think he would remain an Everton player. But another team in England, even if they are in a better position than Everton, even if they have got European football, I still think Richarlison would say, do you know what, I'm going to stay here, I'm happy here, I'm loved here, and I'll fight here until I get me chance to go and play, where I ultimately want to play, which is a team that are challenging to win trophies and league titles and Champions Leagues, not not somebody like a Tottenham and Manchester United who have been rumoured to be interested in him. So, listen, it's difficult. It's difficult. Listen, I said it before and I will say it again, and I'm sure every Evertonian will feel this way if Richarlison is to leave this summer. We will all be as devastated as each other. He's an Evertonian. If you've seen his tweet last night, he quite emphasised that. If you saw his tweet on Sunday evening after Manchester City's game, again, further emphasises it. He loves this football club, and he has really, really embraced the culture and what it means to be an Evertonian, and he is an Evertonian, Richarlison. You know, he's a young lad who come in not knowing anything or if anything about the football club, not knowing anything about the culture, about what we expect as Evertonians, and if he is to leave, he will leave one of us. As I said, if he is to leave this summer and it was to somewhere like a Real Madrid or a PSG, etc., just using those as examples because they're two teams that have been rumoured to be interested in him, I don't think any of us would have a real problem with Richarlison as a player. But it would be absolutely devastating. But as I said, it's interesting to see Damasio coming out and saying Real Madrid aren't interested in Richarlison. I think that's come from a direct quote from Florentino Perez. But as I said, I wouldn't trust Florentino Perez as far as I could throw him, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. You know, Richie at the moment is currently away with Brazil. He was pictured yesterday at Disneyland in I think it was South Korea in a Disneyland, alongside Neymar, Ederson, Coutinho, Thiago Silva, Marquinhos. Basically, the entire Brazil squad had gone to Disneyland, and he was on Neymar's Instagram. On a video with Neymar laughing, and Neymar was absolutely pissing himself at Richarlison. It's clear they've got a relationship there that expands more than football. They've got a very, very close friendship. You can tell it by the way in which they are around each other. You can tell it by the chemistry of those types of videos. And that was my big worry, is if Mbappe was to go to Real Madrid, my big worry is, right, I do think it will be PSG that come in for Richarlison, and I don't think he'd be able to turn down playing alongside Lionel Messi and Neymar, especially given Neymar is one of his close friends. But who knows? Maybe it won't be PSG because of them keeping Mbappe, and maybe it won't be Real Madrid. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. One thing's for sure is I'm sure we all hope for the same thing, and that is Richarlison is in an Everton shirt next season. Whether or not that will be the case, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm sure that is what we all hope. I love the lad. I don't think, and I put it this way, I've gone through love affairs with many an Everton player in my time: Tim Cahill, Mikel Arteta, Romelu Lukaku, Ross Barkley, Wayne Rooney. There's been a lot of Everton players in my 24 years of supporting this football club that I've loved and been absolutely devastated when they've moved on, or when they've left, or when they've retired, or whatever. I don't think there's been one that will have caused me more of an issue than Richarlison will when he leaves this football club, if he leaves this football club. Because I just think, for a lad that is coming from, obviously coming from Watford, but originally from South America, not knowing much about the country, this country itself, never mind the football club, Everton Football Club, the culture of Everton Football Club, he now lives, breathes and acts like he was born on City Road or County Road, and his family, he comes from a family of Evertonians, and he's always been an Evertonian. And if you were an outsider and you didn't know much about football, and you didn't know much about Everton or Richarlison himself, and you were to witness Richarlison and him as a person and how he acts, you would swear that this football club has been his life since the day he was born, and it hasn't. And that just shows how much this club means to him and how much he loves this football club, and we all love him for that in return. We didn't have the greatest of seasons, goal and assist wise, last season, and neither did anybody. Let's be honest, we finished just above the relegation zone. I don't think anybody can sit here and say, oh, he was on his own there. Nobody had a great season, but what he always did was give it 100%. And I actually think it's quite I think it's a little bit sad that he's ended up coming out of the season with no award in terms of Everton's, end of season awards. I would have quite liked to have seen him win Players Player, to be honest. Anthony Gordon, no issue with him winning Young Player, and no real issue with him winning Players Player. But I think Richarlison, it would have been nice for him to pick that up, because he, ultimately dragged us through games last season. Him and his ability to work hard and ultimately get his head down and battle and fight and drag us through situations. He dragged us through games single-handedly last season, and when other players weren't willing to do that, with his fight, with his desire, with his effort, with his energy, he was absolutely unbelievable. And at the end of the day, again, it will break all of our hearts when he is to leave Everton Football Club. And let's hope that day isn't coming anytime soon. But yeah, those are the rumours currently regarding Richarlison. As I said, Damasio stating that Real Madrid are not interested in him. The Athletic last week and various other sources last week saying that they are interested. So listen, we don't know what will happen. All as we can hope is that he's still an Everton player come the start of next season, or come the end of the transfer window, should we say. On the Richarlison topic, Foot Mercato, who are a footballing publication in France, Foot Mercato, they are a publication that we spoke a lot about last summer, in regards to various players that were being linked with Everton, but specifically Moise Kean. They did report on the same day, actually yesterday, that PSG are ready to make a bid for Richarlison. Now, what I will say is, just because Kylian Mbappe is staying at PSG doesn't mean that they won't go in for Richarlison. We're talking about a football club here who have unlimited amounts of money, who very clearly need to strengthen in their squad in order to get to where they want to be. Listen, PSG win the league near enough every year. I know they didn't win it the year before last. Lille won it. But other than that, PSG had won, 10 on the bounce? They've won it again this year relatively comfortably. PSG and winning league titles isn't their goal. PSG's goal is ultimately to win the Champions League. A little bit like Manchester City, I suppose. They're almost a direct comparison to Manchester City. Unlimited amounts of money, win the league every year without any real problem, other than the odd team coming in every now and then and giving them an issue, but can't win that Champions League, can't seem to have a strong enough squad or a strong enough mentality or a strong enough will or whatever it may be to ultimately go on and push in those final stages of club football's biggest competition, as a lot of people will call it. And maybe they're looking at somebody like a Richarlison to come in and forget be a replacement for Kylian Mbappe, forget be a replacement for whoever, come in and be an addition to Kylian Mbappe, be an addition to Neymar, be an addition to Lionel Messi, and strengthen their squad so that when they go into Champions League games, they've got another top quality player to be able to rely on, rather than falling short as they have done in a number of years previous. And if that's the case, then Again, I think Real Madrid, with them being Real Madrid, and with the Ancelotti connection, and I think PSG with the relationship he has with Neymar, with Lionel Messi being there, with it being PSG, I just think it would be very, very difficult for anybody at Everton to convince Richarlison to stay here if PSG were to show a genuine interest. But we'll wait and see. One thing's for sure, wherever he goes, I will be getting a shirt of that team with Richarlison on the back, as long as it's not a team in England. So yeah, we'll wait and see. I'm sure this will be something that is popped up over and multiple times over the next coming weeks, and I'm sure on the Talking Rubbish transfer shows we'll be sitting here talking about Richarlison many, many more times, because I'm sure he'll be linked with moves away for Everton many, many more times. Anyway, moving on from Richarlison, next player we're going to talk about is Maxwell Corney. According to Graham Bailey, who was a transfer correspondent for 90 Min Football, he said that Everton have contacted Maxwell Corney's representative regarding a possible move for the winger. Now, if I'm right in saying, Maxwell Corney has a buying clause, what's it called? A release clause in his contract, sorry. Obviously, he is part of a Burnley team that have just been relegated. So, again, he may be a player that looks for the move out of Burnley. He put quite an emotional post on Instagram a couple of days ago about Burnley's relegation, a post that could be perceived as him, showing his emotion towards Burnley and his desire to stay. Could be perceived in him saying, thank you for everything, but I want to go now because I deserve to play in the Premier League. Who knows? Again, this is another one of those transfer rumours in which Everton have contacted the representatives of a player, or Everton have shown interest in a player, Everton would be quite silly to not show an interest in Maxwell Corney. Now, that's not me saying Everton would be silly to not sign him, because there's various different variables that go into signing a football player: their contract, their wage, the transfer fee, the length of contract, various different things that Everton could get wrong in bringing in a player like Maxwell Corney. But considering Maxwell Corney has got quality, clearly got potential, showed that in the Premier League last season at Burnley, was Burnley shining light for part of the season, although statistically he wasn't unbelievable, but he's still 25 years old, which isn't very old. Let's have a little look at his Premier League stats last season. 26 matches, 9 goals, 1 assist, which isn't unbelievable, but you add those 9 goals to Everton, and ultimately we become a better side. Now, I'm not saying Maxwell Corney should come in and be the replacement for a Richarlison or a Dominic Calvert-Lewin if one of those two is to leave. Absolutely not. But bringing him in addition to Richarlison or Dominic Calvert-Lewin as another player for the squad would be a clever move. As I said, obviously, the transfer fee and wage would determine whether or not it was a good move. But ultimately, as I said, Everton will be quite silly to not inquire about him, given that he's just moved down to the Championship. He'll likely want to move back to the Premier League. And for me, he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. I don't think he's one that is going to come in and drastically improve us. But, you never know. It's difficult because typically you'd sit here and say playing in a better team than Burnley, but Everton weren't much better than Burnley last season, so he'll be playing in a similar team to what he's been playing in. So it's a difficult one. I think he's a good player. I think Everton should be inquiring about him. But as for this transfer rumour, at the moment, I don't see there being anything in it. Listen, Everton will have inquired about 422,000 different players over the last couple of weeks or so, because that's what football is, isn't it? That's what improving your squad is. That's what Frank Lampard will have left this season. Will have left the Emirates last week after that defeat, and I'm sure will have on the Monday after been on the phone to Kevin Thelwell and said, right, who can we bring in? Where can we strengthen? Where can we improve on this team? And I'm sure there will have been a number of players contacted after those conversations, Maxwell Corney being one of them. So, yeah, I like Corney. I don't think he'd be too bad of a sign. I think he'd be a good sign. I think he'd come in and improve us. Whether or not there's anything in it, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, again, I suppose it's a hold fire on that one. Everton also were linked with Hull City winger Keane Lewis Potter, according to iPaper Sport, and actually El Bobble tweeted this as well. Everton interested in Hull City winger Keane Lewis Potter. The 21-year-old is rated at around 30 million. Director of Football Kevin Thelwell and Frank Lampard are targeting young and hungry players to refresh the Everton squad. Now, I think the Bobble said that Everton had a bid rejected for Keane Lewis Potter, but that bid was nowhere near the estimated value of £30 million, and Everton aren't really wanting to pay that value of £30 million either. Hull, whether or not they'll be able to stay strong on that valuation is something that remains to be seen. I think Keane Lewis Potter is a fantastic player. I think he's a good young player. I think he's somebody that Everton should be targeting. He's the type of player that Everton should be targeting: young, hungry, creative, can score goals, can create chances, and as I said, impressed in the lower leagues. You look at another player in Brennan Johnson, who Everton have been rumoured with, currently playing now in the playoff final, of course, for Nottingham Forest. In fact, let's have a little look at how that one is going. It's about half an hour in, still 0-0, 30 minutes in. Brennan Johnson, I believe, is playing in that game for Forest. Let me double check. Yes, he is. He's playing up front. Again, these lower league players that have impressed at that level, they've always worked for Everton historically in the past. Leighton Baines, Tim Cahill, even now Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You look at various different players that have been at Everton Football Club in the past that have come in from lower leagues, come in from the Championship, and really, really, really impressed, and almost, a lot of whom have gone on to become Everton legends, a lot of whom have gone on to become icons at this football club, and really, really great servants. And Keane Lewis Potter would have the potential to do that as well. Obviously, he's still very, very young. He's 21 years old. He's got no Premier League experience whatsoever, and we know that step up to the Premier League is giant, absolutely giant, and he would have to be able to take that step up. I don't think he'd be a player that will be coming in and joining the under-23s. I don't think he'd be a player that'd be coming in and being loaned out. I think he'd be a player that'd be coming in and being a member of the first team straight away. So for that amount of money, although I don't think Everton would pay anywhere near that amount of money if he is to become an Everton player. But for that amount of money, you would want him to be able to come in and make an impact almost straight away. Because, what we have to remember as well is Everton still are in a difficult situation with profit and sustainability in FFP, where we won't be in anywhere near the situation that we were in last season. Because obviously we basically forfeited last summer transfer window in order to be able to spend a lot more this summer. And I know some people go, well, what about January? You bought Mykolenko, you bought Patterson. Well, we effectively bought Vitaly Mykolenko and Nathan Patterson for the same amount of money as that we sold Luca Dean for. Dele Alli has costed nothing and may well not be an Everton player next season. Van der Beek's on loan and gone back. El Ghazi's on loan and gone back. We'll also make money from Moise Kean this summer, which will be needed. And as I said, if we are to sell one of the big names, Jordan Pickford, Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, then obviously we'll get some money back there as well. Although I don't want us to sell any of them, but that might be an inevitability as well. So, in the long run, 30 million for somebody like Keane Lewis-Potter mightn't be a bad bit of business whatsoever. In fact, it might be a steal, given his potential and given his ceiling, which is extremely high. But it would certainly be a process. It would certainly be coming in with the view of him, having a lot of things to improve on and not being that player that we need him to be right now, but maybe being that player in 2 or 3 years. And that's why I don't think Everton will play anywhere near the estimation that Hull City will want. But it's understandable why Hull City will want that amount of money, because he's got a lot of potential. He's obviously a very talented player. And, if they held out, then they may get that from a Manchester United or an Arsenal or somebody that can afford to bring him in and not necessarily rely on him to start week in, week out and afford to bring him in for that money and have him coming off the bench or playing in the European games or whatever. But he certainly is a good player, and this is clear that Everton have got some genuine, real, concrete interest in him because, as I said, if you believe, various different sources on social media, that a lot of people do, Everton have already had a bid rejected for Keane Lewis-Potter, and as I said, iPaper Sport reporting that Everton are heavily, heavily, heavily interested in him, but don't really want to pay the £30 million estimation. So we'll wait and see what happens with this one. I would really like Keane Lewis-Potter at Everton. Same with Brennan Johnson. I think Brennan Johnson would be an unbelievable signing. Again, 2 young, hungry players from the lower leagues that could come in and could really, really take that step up, as opposed to going and buying a big name who's coming in not really interested about Everton. We'll have changed our transfer policy to bring in players that haven't necessarily got a big name but have got bags of talent and will want to impress and will want to prove to people that they're good enough to be at that level. Plus the fact that Everton have got a ridiculous task on our hands next season of not being anywhere near where we were this season. I'm not going to sit here and say finish in Europe or challenge for Europe or anything. At this point, if you were to say, Cam, comfortable mid-table season next season, I think we'd be a bit silly to snarl at that, given what we've just been through. But that is a big task. Frank Lampard's got a massive job on his hands now to ensure that Everton are nowhere near where they were in the weeks and months just gone. Although that had nothing to do with Frank Lampard, his task is to make sure that we're not back there next season. Talking about players from the Championship then, the Mail Sports reporting on Friday that Everton and Newcastle United are both interested in Nottingham Forest midfielder Brennan Johnson this summer. Now, for me, Brennan Johnson would be an absolute phenomenal signing. If you want me to be honest, if for anybody that's new, and as I said, missed the start of the live stream, if you want me to give you a little preview or a little snippet of what the Talk and Rubbish transfer show would be like, it would be this point where I would say complete and utter nonsense to this rumour. Now, not complete and utter nonsense because I don't want Brennan Johnson. I think Brennan Johnson would be absolutely phenomenal at Everton Football Club, but more complete and utter nonsense is because I don't believe that Brennan Johnson will be an Everton player come the end of this transfer window. Brennan Johnson will have a number of top Premier League clubs following him. They will have a number of top Premier League clubs sat at Wembley Stadium right now watching him in the playoff final. And ultimately, I don't think Everton would be able to compete with some of the other clubs that would be wanting to bring him in. You just see Newcastle mentioned there. It's quite clear that Newcastle have got much more freedom with their finances than Everton have, although they haven't got the freedom that some people seem to think they have. They've certainly got more leeway than what we have. They also finished in a significantly better position than what we did last season. Not to say that they will next season, because obviously it's a different season. But I just don't think... I think whilst I think Everton would be interested in Brennan Johnson, and whilst I think that is absolutely right, Everton should be interested in Brennan Johnson, I just don't think that Brennan Johnson coming through, I just can't see that happening. I really, really can't see that happening. Again, I just think as soon as Everton start to be interested, I think other teams will sniff around and go, actually, do you know what? This lad is a player. And, let's go in and throw a bit in ourselves, and that's where I think it'll get a little bit hairy and a bit complicated. But listen, if Everton were to sign Brennan Johnson, it would be an unbelievable bit of business, and a bit of business that I would be certainly opening the bottle of Jaeger for, because he's a fantastic, fantastic player. He's had a great season at Forest. Hopefully they get promoted today. I'd love to see Forest come up, because, not only him, but everybody at that club deserves that. But yeah, it would be an unbelievable signing if it was to come off, but I just don't think it will come off, to be perfectly honest with you. If you are enjoying this, by the way, please hit that like button. It does only take a second if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. We are going to talk about James Tarkovsky in just a second. There's been loads of transfer rumours over the last week or so. Mike McGrath, who is a reporter at the Daily Telegraph, he reported that Everton are eyeing a move for Maxwell Corney. He's got a £17.5 million release clause in his contract due to Burnley's relegation. So there you go, more sort of word on the Maxwell Corney situation. Again, just adding further sort of fuel to the fire that Everton are interested in Maxwell Corney. Whether or not he will be an Everton player is a different situation. The Mail also reporting in the same article, I think, that Everton and Tottenham are interested in Christian Eriksen. Again, I can't see this one happening whatsoever. Look, Christian Eriksen has been fantastic for Brentford and has single-handedly turned their season around. He took them from a team that were potentially, on the risk of battling relegation to a team that were just comfortably stayed in the Premier League. His quality, was clear. We saw that firsthand at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago, and Christian Eriksen is a world-class player when you give him all of the time and all of the space in the world to do what he wants, and that's what Everton did at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago. I don't think Everton will sign Christian Eriksen this summer. I think if it was a battle between Everton and Tottenham, he'd probably more likely go back to Tottenham, but I think he'll stay put where he is at Brentford, to be honest with you. I think he's settled in there. They took a risk on him. They obviously, put a lot of trust in him, and I think he'll want to repay that trust back with staying at that football club and building on what they're creating at the moment, which is very admirable considering where they were a couple of years ago to where they are now. They'll be looking at next season, and if I'm not going to tell Thomas Frank or anybody at Brentford how to act or how to approach next season. But if I'm somebody at Brentford, I'm looking at next season and thinking, right, this is the season. Now look at Sheffield United. They had an unbelievable first season back in the Premier League. Second season, they went down and they were awful. They had that second season syndrome, really, and it's important that Brentford don't go through that as well. So I think they'll be really wanting to keep a hold of Christian Eriksen, and yeah, I just don't really see that happening. But he's a top quality player. He's certainly a player that would vastly improve our team and bring a level of creativity that we haven't replaced since James Rodriguez and Luca Dean left and a certain other player disappeared. So yeah, he would improve us, but is there younger players out there that are more hungry, that could come in and have more of a longevity than Christian Eriksen? I think there probably is. Plus, even if there wasn't, I just can't see that this one happening, to be honest with you. Craig Hope from the Daily Mail was reporting that Newcastle are interested in Demarai Gray. It seems at the moment that Newcastle are fucking interested in everybody, to be perfectly honest with you. Live Lanks reported that Blackpool goalkeeper Chris Maxwell's move to Everton has stalled. The 31-year-old was due to leave leave Blackpool and join Everton this summer, should Everton move on one of Asmir Begovic, Andy Lonergan or João Virginia. Again, a goalkeeper that would be coming in to blatantly be a backup. I don't think it'll happen because obviously we know now that the rumours are that Asmir Begovic will be staying at the football club. I do think João Virginia will leave on a permanent, but you've then got Harry Tyler, who could possibly come in and fill that extra space. Let's be honest, you don't need 3 first team goalkeepers and then an under 23s goalkeeper. Your under 23s goalkeeper should be your third choice first team goalkeeper in my opinion. And Chris Maxwell, although he'd be coming in as a professional to do very similar job to what Andy Lonergan has done, do we really need another 31-year-old goalkeeper who'll never play for Everton on the ranks? I don't really know. Maybe we do. Robert Rojas, who is a reporter for NBC Sports and Telemundo Sports, reported earlier last week that Everton, Fulham, Seville, Napoli are all interested in Miguel Almiron from Newcastle, but Eddie Howe wants the Paraguayan to stay and play a big role next season. Again, another rumour that there's not really much worth talking about. Everton are interested in a player. Various other teams are interested in a player. Very unlikely Everton will sign said player. That's very much what this one is. Dean Jones of Dean Jones Soccer on Twitter, I believe he works for Transfer Insider. He has said that Frank Lampard is interested in having talks with Chelsea's Armando Broja and Conor Gallagher to try and get them to sign for Everton this summer. Now, Broja and Gallagher would be unbelievable signings. The Conor Gallagher situation, I put in a very similar bracket to the Brennan Johnson situation. In fact, I put the Conor Gallagher situation in more difficult than the Brennan Johnson situation because Conor Gallagher has just had a season in the Premier League in where he's been absolutely phenomenal at Crystal Palace. He was a little bit quiet towards the end of the season, that has to be said, but for large parts of the season, he's been, he was very, very good, and he was key in their success this season under Patrick Vieira. There will be many of teams wanting Conor Gallagher to join their football club this summer. There will be a team that wants Conor Gallagher to stay at their football club this summer in Chelsea. There's rumours at the moment that Thomas Tuchel is willing to give Conor Gallagher a position in the Chelsea squad for next season. Therefore, can I see Conor Gallagher joining Everton? Not really. I think he would cost a ridiculous amount of money, which Everton may have to spend, may not have to spend. But I just think this is a rumour that would be far too difficult for Everton to pull off, given the situation that we're in and given the quality of Conor Gallagher. Now, one big sort of, I suppose, what's the saying? One big soldier in the fight. Is that a saying? Well, it is now. I've just made it up. For Everton is Frank Lampard. And Frank Lampard being who Frank Lampard is, one of the best, one of the best midfielders this country has ever seen, one of the best midfielders this country has ever produced. Ultimately, Conor Gallagher being a midfielder from this country, he will, Ian says Forest have gone 1-0 up, Cam is right. He will be looking at Frank Lampard and probably thinking, if anybody is going to teach me how to become a top class midfielder, it's likely Frank Lampard. But whether or not that has enough pull in itself for Conor Gallagher to come to Everton, and has enough pull in itself for Everton to spend the money that would be required to bring Conor Gallagher in, I don't know. I don't know. I suppose we'd have to wait and see. Broja, on the other hand, would be a great signing. Again, difficult to pull off, but would be a fantastic player. And again, somebody that I would welcome with open arms at Everton Football Club. The Daily Star reporting that Everton are interested in Conor Gallagher. As I said, if Everton weren't interested in Conor Gallagher, it would be a worry, because Everton absolutely should be interested in Conor Gallagher because he's fantastic. Charles Watts of Goal has reported that Arsenal are interested in Richarlison and have been keeping tabs on him. They've sounded out his representatives. I don't think Richarlison will go to Arsenal. Core Sport are reporting that Lazio are interested in Alan. That is one that I could see happening, to be perfectly honest with you. That is one that I absolutely could see happening. Again, Alan is had a very stop-start season this season. Listen, I love Alan. I think he's a battler. I think he's a workhorse. I think he's like a little Rottweiler, a little terrier in that midfield. But the reality of the situation is he's probably not quick enough or agile enough to play in the Premier League. And listen, if he is to leave, we'll maybe get a bit of money from him. We'll maybe get, we'll save on his wages. I don't think it will be the worst deal in the world. And I want to finish on a player that Everton have been heavily linked with over the last couple of weeks or so, and this is James Tarkovsky. Now, according to Telefootball, bearing in mind this was on the 23rd, so nearly a week ago, Everton have jumped in the front of the queue in the race to sign James Tarkovsky by offering him a contract worth £90,000 a week. Now, this is something that a lot of Blues weren't happy with because of the wage and because of how much the wage is. One thing I would say is I think £90,000 a week for 3 years works out at something like £12 million. Now, if Everton was to sign James Tarkovsky for £12 million and pay him nothing a week, and he was here for 3 years and give what he could potentially give, I don't think it would be the worst deal in the world, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I like him. I think he's a good player. I think he's a leader. Now, obviously, it's very different in doing what he's doing at Burnley and then ultimately coming into Everton and doing that. There's every argument to be had. Well, hang on, he's just been relegated with Burnley, so he can't be that much of a leader. But listen, I like James Tarkovsky. I think he's a good player. I think he would improve Everton. I think he would improve us defensively. One thing I would say is if James Tarkovsky was to come in, I think you would likely see Yerry Mina leave. Maybe it would be Mason Holgate or maybe it would be Michael Keane, but I think it would be more likely to be Yerry Mina. And is James Tarkovsky as good as Yerry Mina on his day? I don't think he is. So if we're going to allow Yerry Mina to leave, I would want us to bring in somebody that is better than Yerry Mina and more reliable than Yerry Mina. Having said that, I don't think James Tarkovsky would be the worst signing in the world, to be honest with you. I don't. But again, that is quieting down. That had a lot of traction for a couple of days. There was a lot of rumours. There was a lot of news. Everton had jumped in front in the race to sign James Tarkovsky. Everton have a lead in the race. And then all of a sudden, over the last week, we haven't heard anything about it whatsoever. So whether or not that's a sign that everything's going ahead or not, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see, and I'm sure we'll be discussing James Tarkovsky much more in the coming days and weeks. But anyway, that is pretty much all of the transfer news and the rumours. For some reason, my head feels like it's bleeding, and I don't know why. Yeah, that's pretty much everything up to now. As I said, the content will be frequent now. We are going to do the seasonal player ratings tomorrow. They will be live on the channel. We're going to go through every player and give them a rating between 1 and 10. And then obviously we've got the season review. That'll be next week. It'll probably be split into 2 videos because it'll be quite an extensive video. And I'm going to try and get a guest on for that as well. And then, as I said, all the way through the summer, pardon me, by the way, I've got a bit of a tickly throat. All the way through the summer, we'll be doing the Talking Rubbish Transfer show. We'll be doing these news videos and we will be breaking it up. Don't worry, it's not just going to be me sitting here saying, here's a player, do we think Everton will sign him? No. Here's a player, do we think Everton will sign him? No. There'll be a lot more analysis. There'll be a lot more discussion about these players. We'll be getting in the comments a lot more. We are going to get in the comments in a moment, by the way, before we do finish. But we'll be getting in the comments a lot more on the individual players as well. I just wanted to do a little bit of a recap now because we haven't uploaded in about a week or so. I've had a little bit of a rest because this season just completely took it out of me. Now we're back to the grind. Now we're back to the hard work. Now we're back to sitting down and talking about these players. And hopefully each Talking Rubbish Transfer show will focus on 3 or 4 rumours without having to go through 15 players and going through them quickly. We'll be able to actually delve into these rumours and why they're either likely to happen or why they're either complete and utter nonsense. We've only got 2 pre-season games. Yikes, I think we haven't. We've got other pre-season games against Championship clubs. We've actually got one against, I don't know if it's Blackpool or somebody like that. We've got one against a local Championship club that they have announced, but we haven't. I just can't remember who it was. But yeah, we haven't just got 2. We've got the 2 in America, of course, which I'll be going over to, but we'll have probably another 2, maybe 3 local ones before the season starts. Semi says, brutal season, somewhat redeemed by that comeback result versus Palace. Yeah, it was. Again, I don't think we can sit here and say it was redeemed in the sense of that we forgive everything that happened, because last season was pathetic and should never ever happen again. And we're going to divulge into all of that in the in the reviews. Semi says, must get the recruitment right this summer window and digest some of the dead wood for whatever we can get. Yeah, divest, sorry. Inky says, I thought we only had them against Arsenal. No, they're the only ones that have been officially announced by the club yet. But if you remember last season, we played a pre-season friendly at USM Finch Farm that nobody knew about until we were 1-0 up at half-time and John Philip Gabamon had scored, and then everyone sort of just went, oh, fucking hell, are we playing, are we? So Everton not announcing pre-season games isn't anything new. Leicester also fancy him, says Semi. Wonderlust says, thanks for going through all of that, bud. Looking forward to the play ratings and season review. Thank you very much, my mate. Really appreciate it. Peter says, nice one, Cam. Enjoy your Sunday. Get a bevy and raise your glass to Don Carlo. I'm actually off tomorrow. I'm going down to Toffee TV tomorrow. Me and Ned on our own. So if you like Toffee TV, Ped and Baz are on holiday, so it's me and Ned and Paige running the show tomorrow, so that should be interesting. Yeah, so look forward to that. We'll obviously have the player ratings video steam as well. Inky says, of course, Salah wins goal of the season. Does he? I didn't know. Ala Madrid, says Sam. Yeah, Don Carlo strikes again. Honestly, I'll end with the. In fact, I'll say it at the end when I finish the seam off. What a lovely weekend. A week off is perfectly sound, says Wonderlust. Jack Lee says, Ala Madrid, pool in the bin, quadruple. Wonderlust says, I'm collecting reusable transfer rumours in EFC. The Summer is Magic 2022. I'm trying to be careful not to turn it into a flood of half-arsed, baseless shite. Well, that is what the majority of transfer rumours are, half-arsed, baseless shite. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you are new as well. That would mean a massive amount to me. In a country where football is still going on aplenty, our season is 7 games in out of 28. Interesting. Where are you based, mate? Where are you based? Are you MLS? Are you American? So I can focus on it even more, says Wonderlust. Greeting fellow Blues, says Semi. What's happening? Happy birthday to Miko, says Semi. Absolutely. Without Pickford, we'd be well and truly gone. Also, yeah, happy birthday Mikhailenko, the Ukrainian Kimmich, says Wonderlust is right. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it there then. As I said, I will leave you all with this. A season that started with Agent Rafa failing to do what he was set out to do has ended with Agent Carlo doing exactly what he intended to do. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. It only takes a second. As I said, seasonal player ratings will be out tomorrow. Season review will be out next week. We're going to do videos of who Everton need to sign. We're going to get loads of guests on, and we're also going to do these transfer rumour videos where we talk through the latest rumours and we basically just say that's a load of shite, or that actually has got some substance to it. But if you have enjoyed this one, please leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. It would mean a massive, massive amount to me. If you're watching this YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. We'll get involved with as many of them as we can. Big thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon on The Mighty Blues.